When we complain to our doctor about pattern baldness, they tell us that it's genetic. To say that we fight that diagnosis as women is putting it mildly. Nobody wants to hear that. But what's really surprising is that some women are able to regrow hair. And for me, that says that obviously it couldn't have been genetic if the hair grew back. Now, you may have also heard that there's a lot of talk in the low carb community about women losing their hair on carnivore, maybe even some on keto. When their hair falls out and then they freak out because they blame the diet, switch back to the normal diet, and their hair grows back, the conclusion seems obvious, right? My question is hair loss genetic? Because doctors tell us that's what it is. Is hair loss food related? Because people who hate the community tell us that that's what it is. Like, what is it? Should we be concerned about hair loss on a low carb style diet? I know that hair loss is something nobody wants to hear about because it happened to me and it was horrible. So that's why I want to take a look at what role diet plays in hair loss, because there actually is a role. Please subscribe. Our hair grows in cycles. That's why we always have a little bit of hair that comes out, like in the shower or when we're combing our hair, like a little bit of hair comes out. Most of our hair is in an active growing phase. That's why we need to get haircuts all the time. Some of it's at rest, waiting to be shed. Yes, I did say shed. Like our pets do, we also shed. And so that's why sometimes you lose a little bit of hair to the shower or the comb, because we're shedding, and it's absolutely, totally normal. Now, I heard stories when I was growing up about people who had a huge emotional shock hit them and their hair turned white. I don't know if they ever proved that to be something that they could replicate, like in a lab, like scare somebody enough and their hair's going to turn white. But what they were able to show is that a huge shock to the system can push a patch of hair from the growing phase into the resting phase all at the same time. You don't see the hair fall out right away because the hair goes into resting phase, right? Not shedding phase. So we're not going to notice it. And what that means is that that major life event happens, and then we manage it, right? We're going to do something to help ourselves. And then we're going to walk forward in life thinking that, okay, we're all good. And we don't realize what just happened to our hair. We have no clue that there's a problem there. We think everything's solved now. And our hair can stay in resting phase for 2 to 4 months, Wellness Warrior. And some people as long as 6 months. Like, it depends on really how fast your hair grows and the cycles and whatever. But that means that the hair that's going to get lost only shows up about 2 to 4 months later. So by that point, we've really resumed living our lives normally. Like most people, unless the thing that happened in your life was a death, most people would have continued down the road and like life is back to normal. So I said it happened to me at one point. Let me talk about my situation. When my dog died, although he was ill, and I knew eventually he was going to pass, I didn't think it was going to happen on Christmas Eve when I'd left him and he was totally fine, like that afternoon or evening, I should say, when we left. And we came back the same night. We just went out for a bit and came back, and his situation had completely changed. And we were rushing to the hospital in the middle of the night. I wasn't expecting that. And so when he passed that night, I wasn't prepared. I thought I had at least months, maybe even a year still to go. Like what he had, I didn't think it was now. So a few months later, when my hair was falling out, I honestly could not understand why my hair was falling out. Because a few months later, I was, I'm at work, and like we're February. Was it February, January, February? Like maybe March, beginning of March, maybe. Life is back to normal. Everything is going. I mean, obviously, no dog around, but life was back to normal. And I don't think that I would have even made the connection to my shock and grief from losing him back in December if it hadn't have been for the fact that I saw a toy. I saw the toy and started crying. I was cleaning, and this toy that I didn't put away, started crying, and then it hit me that my hair was probably the shock I had lived back in December. The first point that I want to make, and that I'm making right now, is this. Even if carnivore is causing your hair to fall out, it would only show up 2 to 4 months into eating the diet consistently. Consistently. So for everyone who started carnivore and their hair loss began within the first month, within the first week even, the new diet was not likely the issue. The second point that I want to make is that if carnivore caused this, we wouldn't see like hair loss, patches of hair loss in people who didn't do carnivore, but we do. So let's look at how food is actually involved now, because I want to bring the food into it, because that's why we see it in these other types of people. We've spent our entire lives with the eat less, move more mentality. And that mentality specifically tells us to minimize our fat in our diet to lose weight. That mentality sets the expectation that we can force our bodies to lose weight, that we can just push them hard enough, the weight will fall off. So, when we start keto, we bring this mentality into our dieting. I've spoken to many women who enter into their keto the keto diet, still eating small portions, low fat, on a schedule, never eating after 6 p.m., and a whole host of other rules from the standard American diet, standard Canadian, standard whatever country you come from diet. That's doing low fat, low carb, wellness warrior. And restriction on top of that, right? That's not a keto diet. When someone is eating like this, that person isn't getting the results they were expecting to get, obviously, because they're fighting with their body, first of all. But if they're not getting the results that they're expecting, guess what they're going to do? They're going to push themselves to intermittent fasting. They're going to push themselves to carnivore to try to get those results. Because everybody knows when you start keto and carnivore, you just drop weight, right? But they don't realize that they're not doing keto or right? So you push yourself to those now carnivore results, only eating chicken breasts, repulsed by the idea of eating animal fat or chicken skin, 3 small meals, ensuring that your calorie count stays as low as possible. That's not following a carnivore diet, wellness warrior. That's decades of diet culture training still running the decision-making process. And so therefore, even though that person may be trying to do carnivore, if we continue to use standard American diet mentality when we're preparing meals, we won't prepare carnivore meals. We end up creating these knockoff versions of meals that keep our bodies struggling. And that struggle actually blocks our body, right? Our body can't do what it's trying to do. Weeks of not eating enough energy does what? It puts our body in such an energy deficit that it's under major stress. And there it is. We put our body under major stress. When our body has to reallocate resources, the first thing it does is divert energy away from the non-essentials. Growing hair is non-essential. So are beautiful skin and beautiful nails. if you were wondering, that they're non essential. I had the driest skin for years. My skin was like, it was horrible. I would have peeling skin. I used so much moisturizer and creams, and my nails used to like crack and split, and like I was not able to have nails that were growing like that. How long that is? And these are like I've actually filed them. I have to file my nails now because they just keep growing. Our body will always prioritize our vital organs, which live here, right? Heart and also the brain. It will prioritize these center of body important organs over thinness and over beauty. And logically, we want to be healthy. It just makes sense, right? But we suffer with obesity and feeling ugly. We suffer enough that many of us end up severely undereating and doing some pretty bad behaviors to lose weight. When we learned that on keto and carnivore, we can eat fatty meat, I've actually heard two different reactions to learning that we can eat fatty meat. Some women are relieved and excited to be able to have fried chicken and steaks again, while you have other women who are repulsed by the idea of eating fat. And honestly, I think of this as two sides of the same coin. Some of us grew up in homes where we knew what we should eat, but we rarely ate it, right? That was my house. I'm going to put my hand up for that one. We ate fried chicken all the time. But the red meat, I will say, was less often because I don't even know why, but it was just less often, although we did eat it. But then you had these other families. I had a lot of friends in these kind of families where they grew up eating chicken breasts and fish because fat was bad, and they actively avoided the fat. But in both households, we knew what we should have been doing. It is extremely difficult to erase decades of training because we're trying a new diet. It's just almost impossible to do. And I want you to pay attention because the emphasis is on the word trying. We are trying a new diet. Many people begin keto not quite believing that the diet will actually work. I know that's where my head was when I started. So those hesitations and worries about eating fat are much louder in our head than our belief that we actually need fat in our diet to lose weight. This translates into many well-meaning wellness warriors making keto and carnivore meals where they appropriately lowered the carbohydrates, but then they haven't replaced the carbohydrates with fat. That's just typical dieting, not carnivore. This isn't an effort to, or even keto, it's not keto either. This isn't an effort to sabotage the diet. It's a habit that's been reinforced for decades, playing out under the radar. You don't notice you're doing it. You just do it automatically. I'm extremely grateful to every wellness warrior that supports this channel so that I can share this information and help you change these programs running in the background. Consider becoming a channel supporter. The links are in the description. Because eating the fatty cuts of meat just feels wrong, we need to actively unlearn that feeling, unlearn that association. We need to actively put that down. And part of the way that we unlearn it is by acting against it. That means changing what we purchase altogether. Like whatever we go to the store and buy has to change. Chicken legs instead of chicken breasts. Fatty cuts of beef, lamb, pork, goat, whatever kind of meat you buy, the fatty cut instead of the lean cuts. Making a conscious effort to add butter when possible. It's actually going to be about going out of our way to add fat to our meals because it's just so foreign to us to do it. It's so simple. This is not complicated, wellness warrior. It's just not familiar. And unfamiliar takes a little repetition before it becomes normal, before it feels right to us to do. Once we actually start eating enough fat and energy, the shock is gone. That means you don't have to go back to standard American, Canadian, whatever diet. All you really needed to do was eat enough fat because you took the carbohydrate out, and so your body just didn't have. And by the way, it's not just because you took the carbohydrate out. When you don't eat fat with your protein, your body cannot use the protein to build and repair you. So the protein just gets metabolized away and not used for what it's supposed to be used for. Our hair still has to finish its resting phase before it goes through the shedding, and then new growth will start. So it will take a little while for the hair to grow back, but the hair will grow back, right? There's usually like a 3 to 6 month, frame. Like it took me about half a year before my hair kind of filled back in. The same kind of window that it took to show up and is the window that it will take to leave, right? But then of course your hair has to grow out, and so it's going to be shorter there for a little while until it grows, right? We don't need to go back to standard American diet to fix this, is the point I'm trying to make right now. Going back to standard American diet was never the fix. Eating enough was the fix, right? Eating enough is what will solve that problem if food was the reason that your hair fell. I encourage every one of you to go back and look at 2 to 3 months before your hair started falling out. Did something huge and disturbing or scary or whatever frustrating happen in your life? Like that will help you to see if there was another reason. We were never going bald. That's the good part. In the case where it was the food, it's because we were underfed. Now, another way that we can help ourselves learn to eat fatty meat is to attach new meaning to the fat. That helps with reinforcing its value, right? Because fat is actually valuable in our body. Our brain is almost completely fat. Every cell of our body has fat. I have a video right here that explains why protein doesn't build muscle or repair tissue without fat. So I think you should watch that next. Click on the link and I'm going to meet you on the road to health.